To understand what's happening on the Afghan border, I need to visit Rawalpindi, the home of Pakistan's intelligence service, the ISI. The ISI nurtured the Taliban in the 1990s and has a central role in events now unfolding. Pakistan claims to be an American ally in its war on terror, but not everything here is what it seems. I've come to a gated community full of mansions. It's an estate for retired generals. And I've come to meet a man who was head of the Pakistani intelligence services at the height of the Afghan war against the Russians. But he still has his fingers in many pies. Does the war on terror mean anything?
Bunkum. It is out of George Bush's hat. No, it's nothing there. This is nonsense.
General HAMID Gul effectively controlled the Mujahideen in the 1980s. He funneled money from Saudi Arabia and the CIA to jihadi groups.
What Taliban are doing is perfectly understandable. They will never, never stop crossing the border to help their brothers because they think they are in distress. It's a good cause, it's a moral cause, and this is a cause that have always recurred in history.
So basically you're saying that until America leaves Afghanistan and the Western powers, NATO, you see no peace on the borders of Pakistan?
No, none at all.
There's a natural and unavoidable tie-in between success in Afghanistan and success in Pakistan. I think it's a problem for everyone, from the government of Pakistan to the government of Afghanistan to the coalition forces.
The Pakistan government's public support for the United States war on terror has provoked widespread anger, made worse by American missile strikes against so-called terrorist targets inside Pakistan. The spectre of the Pakistan army fighting its own people is also causing tension within the military. There are now open calls in the capital Islamabad for jihad and an overthrow of the pro-Western government. This demonstration is outside the Red Mosque. At one time, it provided sanctuary for fighters traveling to Afghanistan. But in July 2007, Pakistan's security forces stormed the mosque, killing at least 100 people, probably many more. The siege of this mosque proved to be a turning point. Osama bin Laden became directly involved, calling on the people of Pakistan to rise up against their president, who he called an infidel. The enemy was no longer simply the Western forces in Afghanistan. It was the Pakistani government and military as well. Islamist groups demanded that Pakistan end its support for the West's war in Afghanistan.
I think at the popular level, the war in Afghanistan is always unpopular. It has certainly destabilized parts of our country, the frontier. But I think the bottom line was the US was going to do it, was going to intervene. It was better that we were able to at least influence what was happening rather than be on the other side and be penalized. You have to be realistic. We are not going to go looking for a fight with the United States.
The United States is, in effect, asking the Pakistan government to order its army to kill its own citizens. In doing so, it's fueling support for the Taliban. I'm heading towards the Taliban heartland, deep inside the tribal areas. In this region, the government has little influence. I've arranged a meeting with a unit of the Pakistani Taliban. The fertile plains of western Pakistan turn to desert before rising to the mountains of Afghanistan. The first stop on my journey was a school run by a local politician, Shah AZIZ. You have 420 students here. He's a vocal supporter of the Taliban and critic of the Pakistan government's support for the West.
Our government is a kind of American slave. Pakistan's independence and honor have been given away to America. The government's fighting someone else's war, and we condemn this.
They told me that the West fails to understand them. They only ask for what the West takes for granted, the freedom to choose their way of life and the right to fight an invading army. The school is only a 3-hour drive from the capital, Islamabad, but the government has no role here. Shah ABDUL has funded the school himself to prevent any state involvement. He provides free education to young orphans.
I look after all these children. Their fathers and mothers are dead. They are from the Pashtun tribal areas. Most of their fathers have been martyred doing jihad in Afghanistan.
That's the style. Okay. Then you put it on me. Is that right? Is that perfect? That's good. Well, shukriya. Thank you. As evening drew in, I was taken to a location that I was told not to divulge. A Taliban commander and his unit had arranged to meet us on the following day. Well, we've been traveling all day, and we've reached this safe house here. I'm not exactly sure where we are, but this is our bed for the night, with the open skies above us. In the morning, the Pakistani Taliban arrive. They move freely around the tribal areas, though are careful to avoid direct contact with the Pakistan army. The commander gave his name as Haji Yaqub. He asked us not to show his face. He's a veteran of the first Afghan war against the Russians. Now his enemy is the American and NATO troops in Afghanistan. Even though he's from the tribal area of Pakistan, his loyalty is to the leader of the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Our leader is Mullah Omar, and we're his mujahideen.
The Americans and the West says that, you know, you're from Pakistan, Afghanistan's another country, it's nothing to do with you.
There is no difference between us, no division between Afghanistan and Pakistan. If it is jihad, jihad is compulsory. Non-Muslims and their friends are wrong to think that Afghanistan and Pakistan are separate. We are Muslims wherever we are, even Muslims in China. We support them.
Both the governments of Pakistan and Afghanistan have offered to negotiate with the Taliban, but only if men like the commander sever ties with Al-Qaeda. Can the Taliban separate themselves from Al-Qaeda and bin Laden?
I don't accept that the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are two separate entities. They are one body. Firstly, they're Muslims, and secondly, they're brothers in jihad. These people came here 35 years ago. They got married here, and we gave them our lands. They're not foreigners. They're Muslims, and they're mujahideen.
The West says that it will be in Afghanistan for generations. How do you see that unfolding?
I think they have become insane. When one Talib is martyred, 50 more will take his place. Nobody has told me this. I've seen this myself. I tell the Europeans and Pakistanis, don't think that by dropping bombs you will finish the Taliban. No way. If they come with the right attitude, these issues could be resolved by talks, not war. Muslims have a great sense of honor. We are Pashtun. We are not afraid of war.
The West's war on terror, with all its military might, has been unable to conquer an idea born in Pakistan 3 decades ago. Instead, the war has united the Pashtuns behind jihad and allied them with the West's enemies.
Not all the Pashtuns are involved in the militancy or the insurgency, but the general sentiment of the population has now become anti-foreigner. And it's a bad environment in which to fight a counterinsurgency. There was no need to push them into the quarter of the Al-Qaeda. Well, we've managed to do that now.
Narai Takbir! Allahu Akbar!
The more the West puts pressure on Pakistan, the greater the dangers of a full-scale civil war and the possibility that Pakistan turns on the West.
All we have to say is we declare jihad. Then the Muslim youth from all over the Muslim world will rally. This is just one hair breadth which divides at this moment, because things have come to a stage, to a threshold, where if jihad is declared by a state authority, then it's going to be a very, very big affair. It's going to be jihad international.
This is the West's nightmare, but one that its policies in the Pashtun lands may be turning into a reality.